You smell like wet dog, and that nappy rat's nest makes everyone sick. Sit in the back where trash belongs. Brock Hartley grabbed Gianna's braid and hacked through it with scissors. 8 inches of hair her grandmother had braided hit the floor. Students started recording on their phones immediately. He held her severed braid high. Finally, this classroom doesn't stink. Gianna stood without tears. She picked up her braid. Why would you do that? Because watching you squirm is hilarious. He threw it in the trash. The teacher hadn't arrived. Nobody helped. Gianna sat back down, breathing steady while Brock celebrated with his friends. He thought she was easy. Quiet transfer student. Harmless target. 3 days later, he'd learn the truth in front of everyone. What happened next would absolutely destroy him. This wasn't the first time Brock Hartley had targeted Gianna Ingram. It was just the first time he'd gone this far. Gianna had transferred to Westfield High 6 months ago, 3 weeks after her grandmother died. She moved in with her aunt and showed up to senior year halfway through, which already made her an outsider. Being one of only 12 black students in a school of 800 made it worse. She kept her head down, sat in the back, ate lunch alone with a book, never caused problems. That's exactly why Brock noticed her. He was Westfield's star linebacker, the kind of guy who'd been popular since elementary school because his dad owned half the commercial real estate in town. Brock had that specific confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. Teachers laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny, and for 6 months, he'd been testing Gianna to see what he could get away with. It started small, comments in the hallway. "Can I touch your hair? I've never felt black girl hair before." "You're pretty for a black girl. You don't even look that black. Do you wash that or does it just stay like that?" Gianna ignored him every time. Earbuds in, volume up, keep walking. She learned early that responding only made it worse, but silence to someone like Brock looked like permission. The comments got bolder. He started saying them louder, making sure other students heard. Some kids laughed. Most looked uncomfortable and said nothing. A few, like Tessa Murray, whispered that it was messed up, but nobody said it loud enough for Brock to hear. Mrs. Caldwell would occasionally interrupt with "Brock, that's enough," before returning to the lesson. She never sent him to the office, never called his parents, so Brock kept going. 2 weeks ago, he knocked Gianna's textbook off her desk. Last week, he asked if she was related to the janitor. 3 days ago, he told her to sit in the back because the sun might burn you darker. Every time, Gianna stayed quiet. Every time, Brock got more confident. This morning started like any other Monday. Gianna arrived at Mrs. Caldwell's history class 15 minutes early. She sat in her usual seat by the window, pulled out her physics textbook, and put her earbuds in. She had an exam next period. Get through senior year, get into college, get out. That was the plan. The classroom filled around her. Tessa came in with friends and sat 3 rows ahead. Dax and Wyatt, Brock's closest friends, took seats near the door. Other students filtered in, laughing about weekend parties. Gianna kept her eyes on her textbook when she felt someone standing next to her desk. She looked up. Brock stood there with that smile he wore when he was about to say something he thought was clever. Dax and Wyatt were behind him, phones already out. Gianna pulled out one earbud. "Can I help you?" "Yeah. Serious question. No judgment." Brock leaned against her desk. She waited. "Do you people actually wash your hair? Because I've been sitting 2 rows up for 6 months and I swear I can smell it." A few students laughed. Most went quiet. Tessa looked back with sympathy but didn't say anything. Gianna's hand tightened on her textbook. Her breathing stayed even. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. The way her grandmother taught her when she was young and struggling to control her temper. "I wash my hair. Can you move? I'm studying." "See? I ask a simple question and she gets defensive. Why is it always like that?" "Maybe because your question was disrespectful," Gianna said quietly. "Disrespectful? I'm curious about cultural differences. That's called being educated." Wyatt laughed from the doorway. "Bro, you're gonna make her cry." "I've never cried," Gianna said. "Yeah, exactly. That's weird. Normal people show emotions. You just sit here like a robot." He reached out suddenly and grabbed her braid. Gianna jerked back, but he held it. "Look how thick this is. This thing probably weighs 5 pounds. Let go." Gianna's voice went cold. Several students were watching now. Tessa had her phone out but wasn't recording. "I'm just looking. Relax." That's when he pulled out the scissors. Later, people would argue about where they came from. Either way, he had them open while holding Gianna's braid. "Brock, what are you doing?" Tessa's voice was small. "I'm helping. She's been complaining about how heavy this is." "Don't—" Gianna's hand came up, but Brock held her braid higher. "You smell like wet dog," he said loud enough for everyone. "And that nappy rat's nest makes everyone sick. Sit in the back where trash belongs." Then he cut. The sound of scissors slicing through hair filled the classroom. Snip, snip, snip. He sawed through quickly. 8 inches of carefully braided hair separated from her head. Gianna's hand reached back to where her braid used to be. Her fingers touched the shortened ends. She froze. Phones came out from every direction. Students started recording. Brock held up the severed braid like a trophy, turning so every camera got a good angle. There. Finally. This classroom doesn't stink anymore. Silence except for phones capturing everything. Gianna stood slowly. She moved with strange precision, weight evenly distributed, posture straight. She looked at Brock for 3 seconds. Then she bent down and picked up the severed braid. She held it in both hands like something precious. "Why would you do that?" Her voice wasn't shaking. It was steady and quiet. Brock grinned. "Because watching you squirm is hilarious." He grabbed the braid from her hands, walked to the trash can, and dropped it in. "It's just hair. Learn to take a joke." The classroom door opened. Mrs. Caldwell walked in 5 minutes late with coffee. She glanced up and frowned at students on their phones. "Phones away. We have a lot to cover today." She walked to her desk without noticing the hair on the floor, without seeing Gianna frozen by the window. Tessa raised her hand. "Mrs. Caldwell, Brock just—" "I said phones away, Tessa." Tessa lowered her hand. She looked back at Gianna with apology in her eyes. Gianna sat down slowly. She placed her textbook on the desk. She folded her hands, and she took one long breath that lasted exactly 4 counts in and 4 counts out. Nobody in that room knew it yet, but they'd just witnessed someone with years of discipline choose not to respond with violence she was capable of. They'd just recorded evidence of the biggest mistake Brock Hartley would ever make. In 3 days, every single one of them would understand what that breathing technique meant. By second period, everyone knew what Brock had done. The video spread through the school like wildfire. Students posted it to Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Within an hour, it had 2,000 views just from Westfield students. By lunch, the entire school was talking about it. Gianna walked into the cafeteria and felt 300 pairs of eyes turn toward her. Conversation stopped. People nudged their friends and pointed. Phones came out again, recording her entrance. She kept her face neutral and walked to her usual table in the back corner, the table where she always sat alone. Her hair was different now. She'd gone to the bathroom between classes and evened it out, but there was no hiding what happened. 8 inches gone. The braid her grandmother had woven was sitting in a trash can. Gianna pulled out her lunch and a book. Same routine. Eat quickly, read, avoid eye contact, get through the day. Across the cafeteria, Brock sat at the center table surrounded by his crowd. Football players, cheerleaders, the kids who'd been popular forever. He was laughing, telling the story with dramatic gestures while friends watched the video again. "Her face when I did it," Brock said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Priceless." Dax scrolled through comments. "Dude, you're blowing up. This thing's got 5,000 views. See? People think it's funny." Brock took a bite of his sandwich. "Everyone except her." "Some people are saying you went too far," Wyatt said, showing his phone. Brock glanced at it and shrugged. "Some people are soft." He looked across the cafeteria and spotted Gianna sitting alone, reading like nothing had happened. That irritated him. She should be crying. She should be hiding in a bathroom. Instead, she looked completely calm. "Watch this," Brock said, standing up. "Bro, maybe leave it alone," Dax said. "I'm just going to talk to her." Brock grabbed his phone and started recording as he walked toward Gianna's table. Students noticed immediately. The cafeteria went quiet. Gianna saw him coming but didn't look up from her book. Brock reached her table and stood there, phone pointed at her. "Hey, Gianna, got a second?" She didn't respond. "Come on, don't be like that. I actually wanted to apologize." That got her attention. She looked up slowly. "You want to apologize?" "Yeah." Brock smiled. "I feel bad about this morning. I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot." Students were gathering now, forming a circle around her table. Phones came out everywhere. Gianna closed her book. Okay, I'm listening. So here's what I'm thinking. I heard you're into martial arts or whatever, like karate, right? She didn't confirm or deny, just waited. My cousin does karate, and I wrestle, varsity team, been doing it since I was 8. So I thought, maybe we could settle this with a friendly demonstration. Spar a little, no hard feelings. Spar, Gianna repeated. Yeah, friendly, nothing serious. Brock was still recording, playing to his audience. Here's the deal. If you can land one hit on me, just one clean hit, I'll apologize in front of the whole school. I'll admit I was wrong. He paused. But if you can't land a hit, then you admit you're overreacting about the hair thing. You tell everyone it wasn't a big deal. Fair? The cafeteria had gone completely silent. 200 students watched. Tessa stood up from her table. Brock, that's not fair. She's half your size. I'm giving her a chance to prove herself, Brock said. Unless she's scared. Wyatt joined the circle, also recording. Come on, Gianna. You've been walking around all quiet for 6 months. Let's see what you're actually about. Gianna looked at Brock for a long moment. Her face showed nothing. What are the exact terms? She asked. Brock grinned. He hadn't expected her to consider it. Friday after school. Gym. We'll make it official. Get Coach Ramsey to supervise. Protective gear, the whole thing. 1 3-minute round. You land one clean hit that the coach confirms, you win. If you don't, I win. Deal? And if I win, you apologize publicly. In front of everyone. I'll own it. And if you win, I say the hair wasn't a big deal. Exactly, see? I'm being totally reasonable. Gianna was quiet for 10 seconds. The silence stretched. Students shifted uncomfortably. Then she spoke, her voice clear and calm. Friday, 4 p.m., gymnasium. The cafeteria erupted. Students started talking all at once, phones typing furiously. Within seconds, the news was spreading beyond the cafeteria to the entire school. Brock's grin got wider. There we go. Finally some backbone. This is going to be fun. He turned to his friends, laughing. Did you get that? Tell me you got that. Got it, Dax confirmed. Perfect. This is going to be the most viral thing this school's ever seen. They walked back to their table, already replaying the video. Gianna sat alone again. She opened her book, but she didn't turn the page. Her eyes weren't moving. She was breathing that same slow, controlled way. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Tessa walked over and sat down without asking. Gianna, you don't have to do this. Brock wrestles. He's 200 pounds. I know it's not fair, Gianna said quietly. Then why did you agree? Gianna looked up. Because he's going to keep doing this, to me, to someone else. He does it because nobody stops him. But you could get hurt. I could. Gianna's voice was steady. Or I could show him what happens when you assume quiet means weak. Tessa didn't know what to say. She sat there for a moment, then stood. I hope you destroy him. Gianna almost smiled. We'll see. By the end of lunch, the whole school knew. By the end of the day, students were taking sides. Some thought Brock would finally get what he deserved. Most thought Gianna was crazy. The video of Brock cutting her hair had 5,000 views. The video of her accepting his challenge had 10,000. Someone created a hashtag, Gianna vs. Brock. Someone else started a poll. 83% voted for Brock. The comments were brutal. She's gonna get destroyed. This is embarrassing to watch. Brock wrestles varsity. She doesn't stand a chance. A few comments defended her. Maybe she knows something we don't. Quiet people are quiet for a reason. I've never seen her react to anything. That's either really weak or really dangerous. But those were drowned out by predictions she'd lose. Gianna saw all of it. She scrolled through comments after school, sitting in her aunt's car. She read every prediction that she'd lose, every comment calling her stupid. Then she put her phone away. She had 3 days until the entire school would pack into the gymnasium. 3 days until everyone would learn the truth about who she really was. 3 days to prepare for the most important lesson she'd ever teach. Vice Principal Ashford heard about the challenge before the final bell rang. By 3 p.m., both Brock and Gianna sat in his office, chairs on opposite sides of the room. Ashford was in his mid-50s, tired, and had dealt with Brock's behavior for 4 years. He rubbed his temples. We don't condone violence at Westfield High. Fighting results in immediate suspension. It's not a fight, sir. Brock leaned forward, all respectful energy. It's supervised sparring for conflict resolution, educational purposes. Educational purposes, Ashford repeated flatly. Yes, sir. We had a misunderstanding. This is us working it out in a controlled environment. Builds character. Isn't that what school's about? Ashford looked at Gianna. Is this what you want? Yes, she said. You understand he's significantly larger. He has wrestling experience. I understand. And you still want to do this? Yes. Ashford sighed. Brock's father was on the school board. This was already viral. If he shut it down, angry parents would call about censorship. If we allow this, it's done properly. Coach Ramsey supervises. Protective gear mandatory. First clean body shot ends it immediately. Coach has final say. That works, Brock said. Fine, Gianna said. I want this in writing. Both sign. Your parents sign. The school is not liable for injuries. They both nodded. 20 minutes later, the terms were official. Friday, 4 p.m., main gymnasium. 1 3-minute round. If Gianna landed one clean strike that Coach Ramsey confirmed, Brock would publicly apologize, write a 5-page essay on respect, and be suspended from the next 2 football games. If Gianna failed to land a strike, she would publicly state the hair incident was minor, that she overreacted, and apologize for wasting everyone's time. Both signed. The agreement was posted to the school's social media within an hour. Now it was real, sanctioned, unavoidable. The wait began. Monday afternoon stretched into Tuesday. Tuesday crawled into Wednesday. The school buzzed with anticipation. Students picked sides. Teachers debated Ashford's decision. Parents called with concerns. Betting pools got serious. Real money changed hands. Gianna kept to her routine. Class, library, home. She didn't respond to questions, didn't acknowledge stares, didn't engage with anyone hyping Friday's showdown. Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Sterling caught her after physics class. Gianna, wait! She stopped by the door. Mr. Sterling was one of the few teachers who'd never ignored Brock's comments. He'd sent him to the office twice last semester. You don't have to do this. What Brock did was assault. You don't owe anyone a performance. I know, Gianna said. Then why? She thought about it. Because everyone's watching now. If I back down, he wins anyway. If I show up, I control what happens next. And what happens next? I teach a lesson, the way my grandmother taught me. Mr. Sterling studied her face. Something in her tone made him pause. You're not scared at all. No, sir. Should Brock be? Gianna almost smiled. That's up to him. She left before he could ask more. Brock spent the week preparing like he was training for championships. He watched street fight videos with Dax and Wyatt. He practiced going easy in wrestling so it would look like he gave Gianna a fair chance. He planned exactly how he'd move, how he'd let her tire out, how he'd make it competitive before finishing it. The key is making it look close, he told his friends Thursday night. If I destroy her in 10 seconds, I look like a bully. If it goes the full round and she just can't land anything, I look like the good guy. You think she'll last the full round? Wyatt asked. Doesn't matter. Either way, I win. Brock grinned. Tomorrow, everyone sees what happens when someone challenges me. He posted a video Thursday night. Ready for tomorrow, no hard feelings. Just defending my reputation. May the best person win. 15,000 views in 2 hours. Gianna didn't post anything. She went to her aunt's basement after dinner Thursday and trained alone. Kata, breathing exercises, meditation. She moved through forms she'd practiced 10,000 times. Her phone kept buzzing. Students asking if she was nervous, people offering advice, some sending threats, some sending support. She turned her phone off. Friday was 12 hours away. Tomorrow, the entire school would gather in the gymnasium. Tomorrow, Brock Hartley would step into the ring thinking he knew exactly how this would end. Tomorrow, everyone would learn what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. Tuesday evening, Gianna sat alone in her room touching what was left of her hair. The apartment was small but clean. Her aunt worked late shifts at the hospital, so most nights Gianna had the place to herself. Her room was simple. Bed, desk, bookshelf, but one wall was different. Photos covered it, newspaper clippings, certificates, tournament brackets, podium photos, a girl in a white gi holding medals. The images were faded, tucked in the corner where visitors wouldn't notice them. Gianna hadn't looked at that wall in months. Tonight, she stood in front of it. There was her grandmother, Althea, standing next to 10-year-old Gianna at her first tournament, both smiling with pride. Another photo, Gianna at 14, mid-kick, face fierce with concentration and power. A newspaper clipping, local youth dominates regional championship. A certificate, junior national karate champion, 3 years in a row. Gianna traced her finger over her grandmother's face in the photo. 8 months since pancreatic cancer took her. 8 months since Gianna's entire world collapsed. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. Grandmother Althea raised her alone after that, taught her everything, how to braid her hair on Sunday mornings, how to stand straight when the world pushed down, and how to fight. Althea put Gianna in karate at age 9. You've got fire in you, baby. We need to teach that fire some discipline before it burns you up. Gianna was angry back then. Angry about her parents, angry at everything. She'd fight at school, throw tantrums, break things when frustrated. Karate gave her control. Her grandmother sat in the dojo during every practice, every tournament, every belt test. Those sharp eyes that missed nothing. After practice, driving home, she'd always say the same thing. Real strength is knowing you can destroy someone and choosing not to. That's power, Gianna. Remember that. Gianna remembered everything. Every lesson, every word of wisdom, every Sunday morning when Grandmother Althea braided her hair while telling stories about their family, about resilience, about dignity. The braid Brock cut off had been the last one her grandmother did. 2 days before she died, weak from chemo but determined, Althea called Gianna over. "Come here, baby. Let me do your hair one more time." Gianna sat on the floor between her grandmother's knees like she'd done 1,000 times before, felt those familiar hands sectioning and weaving with practiced care. "You're going to be fine without me," Althea whispered. "You're strong, stronger than you know." "I don't feel strong," Gianna said. "That's because you're measuring wrong. Strong isn't about muscles or wins. Strong is choosing grace when you have every right to choose violence." 3 days later, she was gone. Gianna moved to Westfield to live with her aunt, left behind her dojo in her hometown, left behind her sensei who'd trained her since she was 9, left behind her friends, her team, her identity as a 3-time national champion. She packed her medals in a box and never took them out again. She stopped training publicly, stopped competing, stopped being that person entirely. At Westfield, nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew what she could do. That felt safer somehow. She wanted to be invisible, get through senior year without drawing attention, without explaining about her grandmother or her parents or why she looked sad sometimes. But invisible, she'd learned, just meant ignorable. Gianna turned from the wall and went downstairs to the basement. Her aunt had cleared space down there without being asked, put down foam mats, hung a heavy bag in the corner, never said anything about it, just made the space available. Gianna changed into training clothes and stood in the center of the mat. She started with breathing. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. The rhythm her sensei drilled into her from day one. The rhythm that controlled everything else. Then she moved into kata. Forms she'd practiced 10,000 times. Each movement precise, economical, no wasted energy. Her body remembered even when her mind didn't want to. Her phone buzzed on the bench. Another message. Another video of Brock talking about Friday. Another comment calling her stupid. She ignored it and kept training. An hour passed. Her aunt came home from her shift and called down the stairs. "Don't stay up too late, honey." "I won't." But Gianna trained for another hour after that. She worked the heavy bag. Palm strikes, elbow strikes, kicks. Each one controlled, measured, perfect. The calluses on her knuckles had softened over 6 months of not training seriously, but they were still there. The muscle memory was still there. Everything was still there. She just hadn't used it. Wednesday night, 2 days before the showdown, her aunt came down to the basement while Gianna was training. "Baby, we need to talk." Gianna stopped mid-kick and turned. "What's up?" Her aunt looked worried. She'd seen the videos, heard the talk around town. "You don't have to do this. You could just let it go." "I can't." "Why not? Why does it matter?" Gianna walked to the bench and sat down, breathing hard. "He didn't just cut my hair. He cut it because he thought he could. Because he's always been able to, because nobody ever stops him." "So you're going to stop him?" I'm going to show him that quiet doesn't mean weak, that not responding immediately doesn't mean not caring. Her aunt noticed the medals then, sitting in the box on the storage shelf. She walked over and picked one up. Baby, you never told me about these. I didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to be normal. And now? Gianna thought about it. Now I realize being yourself is better than being invisible. Her aunt sat next to her on the bench. Your grandmother would be proud of you. You know that, right? Would she? I'm about to fight someone in front of the whole school. You're about to teach someone a lesson about respect. There's a difference. Her aunt put the medal back carefully. Just promise me you'll be safe. I promise. Thursday night, the night before everything, Gianna called her old sensei. He answered on the second ring. Gianna, I heard what happened. How did you hear? Your aunt called me, asked if I knew you were still training. I haven't been. Not really. Not until this week. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I remind everyone who I am. Her sensei was quiet for a moment. Your grandmother used to say something to me after your tournaments. She'd say, that girl has more control in her pinky than most adults have in their whole body. She was right then. She's still right now. I miss her, Gianna said quietly. I know you do, but she's still with you. In every technique she watched you perfect. In every lesson she taught you about discipline. In every moment you choose grace over rage. What if I mess up tomorrow? You won't. Not because you're perfect, but because you've been training for this your entire life. Not training for some boy in a gymnasium, training for the moment when you'd have to decide who you really are. After they hung up, Gianna stood in front of her wall one more time. She looked at the photos, the certificates, the newspaper clippings, the girl she used to be. Then she took the medals out of the box and put them on her desk where she could see them clearly. Tomorrow, everyone would learn the truth. Tomorrow, she'd stop hiding. Friday, 3:45 p.m. The gymnasium was packed. Over 200 students crammed into the bleachers. More lined the walls. Teachers stood near the exits. Vice Principal Ashford watched from the doorway with his arms crossed. The center of the gym had been cleared. Coach Ramsey set up a marked area with tape on the floor. Protective headgear and mouth guards sat on a folding table. A timer, a whistle. Phones were everywhere, every angle covered. Students had been streaming in since 3:30. The energy felt electric, dangerous. People were still placing bets. The consensus remained clear. Brock would win easily. She's gonna get destroyed, someone said loudly. This is gonna be hard to watch. 3:55 p.m. The crowd noise rose suddenly. Brock had arrived. He entered through the main doors with his entire crew, Dax and Wyatt flanking him, other football players trailing, the cheerleaders, his entourage. Someone had brought a Bluetooth speaker. Music started playing. Brock walked to the center like he was entering a championship fight. He waved to the crowd, grinned at the cameras, shadowboxed for effect. Students who'd bet on him cheered, chanted his name. Brock! 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 He ate it up, did a little spin, flexed, played to every phone pointed at him. Coach Ramsey looked unimpressed. Enough! Music off! The music stopped, but Brock kept smiling, kept working the crowd. He pulled off his hoodie to reveal a tank top that showed off his wrestling-built shoulders. 200 pounds of muscle and confidence. 3:58 p.m. The gym doors opened again. Gianna walked in alone. No entourage, no music, no fanfare, just her, wearing plain black training clothes, carrying a small gym bag. The noise in the gymnasium dropped immediately. Something about the way she moved made people stop talking. She walked with perfect posture, each step deliberate and controlled. She didn't look at the crowd, didn't acknowledge the phones, didn't show any expression. She walked straight to Coach Ramsey. I'm here, she said simply. You sure about this? Yes, sir. Brock called across the space. Glad you showed up. Thought you might chicken out. Gianna didn't respond. She set her bag down and started stretching. Simple movements, nothing showy, but the precision caught attention. The way she moved was different, economical. No wasted motion. Coach Ramsey called them both to the center. Listen up, I'm in charge here. This ends when I say it ends. They both nodded. 3-minute round. First clean strike to the body that I confirm ends it immediately. No strikes to the face, throat, or groin. You break the rules, you forfeit. Clear? Clear, Brock said. Clear, Gianna said. Protective gear on. They both geared up. The headgear made them look official, serious. Coach Ramsey had them stand at opposite ends of the taped area. Brock bounced on his toes, shaking out his arms, still smiling, still confident. Gianna stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, breathing slow and controlled. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. The gymnasium went silent. Coach Ramsey raised his hand. 3, 2, 1. He blew the whistle. Brock came forward immediately. He moved like a wrestler, hands up high, pressure forward. His first move was a wide overhand right, throwing it hard. Gianna stepped offline, not back, offline. Her feet moved at a perfect angle, shifting her body just enough that his punch passed through empty air. She didn't counter, just moved and reset. Brock threw again, a jab this time, faster. Gianna's head tilted slightly. The punch missed by inches, still no counter. Brock threw a combination, jab, cross, hook, each punch committed, each one trying to find her. Gianna moved like water, subtle shifts of her head, small steps that took her out of range. She didn't block, didn't parry. She just wasn't there when the punches arrived. 30 seconds in, Brock was already breathing harder than he expected. Gianna's breathing hadn't changed at all, still that same 4-count rhythm. The crowd started to notice. Is she even trying? She hasn't thrown a single punch. Brock noticed, too. It frustrated him. He was supposed to be landing shots. She was supposed to be defending desperately. Instead, he couldn't touch her. He threw harder, faster, a spinning back fist that would have knocked her out if it landed. Gianna ducked under it smoothly. Still no counter. 1 minute in. Brock was sweating now, his breathing getting heavy. Gianna looked like she was barely paying attention. Her eyes were half-lidded, almost meditative. But she saw everything, reacted to everything. The crowd noise changed. The chanting for Brock faded. Murmurs started. How is she doing that? She's making him miss everything. Tessa leaned forward, phone now recording. Oh my God, she's playing with him. Brock heard some of the comments. It made him angrier. He abandoned technique and just threw everything. Wild hooks, haymakers, desperate combinations. Gianna kept moving, kept evading. Her footwork was surgical, always at the perfect angle, always just out of range. At one point, she stopped moving entirely, just stood there, hands at her sides. Brock threw a massive overhand right with everything he had. Gianna swayed. Her upper body moved maybe 6 inches. The punch passed her face so close that students gasped, but it didn't touch her. She looked at Brock and spoke for the first time. You're tired. Breathe deeper. The crowd went insane. Did she just coach him? She's giving him advice while he's trying to hit her. Brock's face went red. Shut up! He lunged forward, throwing a sloppy combination. Coach Ramsey was watching intently now. He recognized what he was seeing. This wasn't luck. This was mastery. 2 minutes. The round was almost over. Brock was breathing in gasps. His arms felt heavy. Every punch took more effort, and she just kept moving, kept evading, kept making him look foolish. The whistle blew. End of round 1. Brock stumbled back to his corner where Dax and Wyatt waited. Bro, what are you doing? Dax said. Just rush her. I'm trying, Brock panted. She won't stay still. You're letting her make you look stupid. Across the gym, Gianna sat calmly. She took a small sip of water, closed her eyes. Her breathing hadn't changed. The crowd was buzzing now, students replaying footage on their phones. She's not even breathing hard. Look at him, he's exhausted. Mr. Sterling stood against the wall. He leaned over to a colleague. That's world-class technique. She's been formally trained for years. Then why is she here? I don't know, but Brock has no idea what he challenged. Coach Ramsey gave them 30 seconds, then called them back to the center. Round 2, same rules. Ready? Brock nodded, still breathing hard. Gianna stood and walked back to her starting position. She adjusted her stance slightly. Traditional karate stance, weight slightly forward, hands positioned differently. She was done demonstrating. Now she was going to teach. The whistle blew. Brock charged immediately, trying to use his size to overwhelm her. Gianna flowed around him like he was moving through water. Every attack redirected. Then she started countering. Light touches, control shots. Her hand tapped his shoulder as she moved past. Could have been his throat. Could have ended it. But she pulled the strike. Tapped to his ribs as he overextended. Could have been solar plexus. She held back. Tapped to his bicep. Could have been his head. She chose not to. Each touch was a statement. Each one said clearly, I could end this whenever I want. The crowd realized it at the same moment. The noise changed from entertainment to something else. Awe, respect. She's a professional. She's been going easy on him the whole time. She could have finished this in 10 seconds. He challenged someone completely out of his league. Students were filming differently now. This wasn't a fight. This was a documentary. Mr. Sterling pulled out his own phone. I need to record this. 90 seconds into round 2. Brock was completely gassed, completely frustrated, completely humiliated. Everyone was watching him get dismantled by someone he'd thought was weak. He threw one last desperate haymaker, put everything into it, all his strength, all his anger. Gianna caught his wrist mid-air. Time seemed to stop. She held his arm there, suspended, her grip gentle but absolutely unbreakable. He tried to pull away, couldn't. Tried to throw with his other hand. She waited. The entire gymnasium was silent. 200 people, not one sound. Gianna looked Brock directly in the eyes. "You're strong," she said quietly. "But strength without control is just flailing." His other hand was still raised, ready to throw. "Do it," she said, "or put your hand down." His arm trembled, from exhaustion, from emotion, from the weight of everyone watching. Slowly he lowered his hand. His legs gave out, not from any hit, from exhaustion, from reality crashing into him. He sank to his knees. Gianna released his wrist gently. Coach Ramsey blew the whistle. Match over. Winner, Gianna Ingram. But there was no celebration, no triumphant music, just silence and the sound of 200 students trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Brock stayed on his knees. His chest heaved. Sweat dripped onto the gymnasium floor. His hands were on his thighs because his legs couldn't support him anymore. The entire school watched in silence. Gianna stood in front of him, still in her stance, still breathing controlled, like the last 3 minutes hadn't affected her at all. Coach Ramsey stepped forward. "Match is over. Winner by—" "Wait!" Gianna's voice cut through the silence. Gianna looked down at Brock. "Stand up." Brock looked up, exhausted. "I can't." "Yes, you can. Stand up." Something in her tone wasn't cruel. It was firm but not unkind. Brock struggled to his feet, swaying slightly, completely spent. Gianna studied him. Then she spoke loud enough for everyone. "You challenged me because you thought I was weak. You cut my hair because you thought I wouldn't respond. You've done this to others because you've never faced real consequences." Brock didn't argue, just stood there breathing hard. "I could have hurt you, badly, in the first 10 seconds. I could have ended this before it started." The gymnasium stayed silent, every phone still recording. "But that's not what strength is. That's not what my grandmother taught me." Her voice softened slightly, but still carried to every corner. "She taught me that real strength is knowing you can destroy someone and choosing not to. Real strength is showing mercy when you have every right to show none." Brock's eyes were on the floor now. "So I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to answer honestly, not for me, for everyone here, for yourself." She waited until Brock looked up. "Why did you cut my hair?" The question hung in the air. Brock opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "I thought it would be funny." "That's not why. That's the excuse. Why did you really do it?" Brock was quiet for a long moment. The silence stretched, heavy. Then finally, the truth. "Because I could," he said quietly. "Because nobody stops me. Because my dad's on the school board and teachers don't do anything and everyone just laughs." His voice cracked. "Because I thought you wouldn't fight back. I thought you were easy." The gymnasium was so quiet you could hear breathing. Gianna nodded slowly. "You're right. Nobody stops you. Teachers see it and do nothing. Students see it and say nothing. You forgot it was wrong." She took a step closer. "But here's what you didn't know. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Kind doesn't mean pushover. And not responding immediately doesn't mean not caring." Brock looked at her, really looked, for maybe the first time. "Who are you?" he asked. The question came out broken, genuine. "I'm someone who's been training in karate since I was 9. Someone who's won 3 consecutive junior national championships. Someone who competed at the Pan American Youth Games." She watched his face process that. "But more than that, I'm someone who lost her grandmother 8 months ago. Someone who moved here trying to be invisible." Her voice got quieter. "That braid you cut? My grandmother braided it 2 days before she died. It was all I had left of her. You threw it in the trash like it was nothing. Brock's face crumbled, the weight finally hitting him completely. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. You didn't need to know who I am. You just needed to know I'm human. That's the lesson here. Coach Ramsey stepped forward. Match is officially over. Winner Gianna Ingram. Brock looked at Gianna one more time. I really am sorry. Not because you beat me. Because of what I did. He looked at the crowd. Some students looked away. Gianna took off her headgear. You can still choose to be better, starting now. The gymnasium stayed silent. Then slowly, someone started clapping. Tessa standing in the front row. Another student joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire gymnasium was applauding, not for the fight, not for the victory, for the lesson. The applause faded as students realized what was about to happen. Dax was scrolling on his phone in the bleachers. His face went pale. Holy shit. Look at this. Students around him leaned in, then pulled out their phones. Within seconds, whispers spread through the gymnasium. No way. That's her? Dax stood up. Gianna Ingram, junior national karate champion, 3 consecutive years, gold medal at Pan American Youth Games. He turned his phone to show the crowd. Photos of Gianna on podiums, mid-kick in competition, holding medals, completely different from the quiet girl they'd known. Students passed phones around. Murmurs became a roar. She's nationally ranked. She was basically a professional. Coach Ramsey walked over to Gianna. Why didn't you tell anyone? I didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to be normal. Coach Ramsey shook his head. Young lady, I just watched one of the finest demonstrations of martial arts discipline I've ever seen. He turned to address the gymnasium. Gianna could have hurt Brock seriously in the first exchange. Instead, she showed restraint and mercy that most adults don't possess. She could have humiliated you. She chose to teach you instead. Learn from that. Vice Principal Ashford stepped forward. Per the agreement, Brock, you know what comes next. Brock nodded. Can I say something? To everyone? Gianna nodded. Brock faced the bleachers, 200 classmates staring. Gianna, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were a champion. But that's not the point. I shouldn't have needed to know that. I shouldn't have cut your hair. His voice shook, but he kept going. The truth is, I cut your hair because I thought I could get away with it. Because I've been getting away with stuff like that for years. Because everyone looks the other way. Some teachers shifted uncomfortably. I thought quiet meant weak. I was wrong. His voice got quieter. And I'm sorry to anyone else I've treated like that. The gymnasium was silent. Gianna stepped forward. You don't get to decide someone's value based on whether they fight back. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Kind doesn't mean pushover. And not responding immediately doesn't mean not caring. She looked at Brock, then at the crowd. My grandmother taught me that real strength is choosing not to destroy when you have the power to. That's what I did today. That's what I hope you'll learn. She touched what was left of her hair. She'd want me to tell you it's never too late to choose to be better. How do I fix this? Brock asked. Start by seeing people. Actually seeing them. Not assumptions, not stereotypes, people. Tessa walked over. I should have said something. I saw what he was doing and I didn't. I'm sorry. Say something next time. That's how this changes. Other students approached, some apologizing, some asking about training. Mr. Sterling approached. Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? I wanted to be normal. Turns out being yourself is better than being invisible. The gymnasium slowly emptied. Gianna picked up her bag. Gianna, wait. Brock stood there, exhausted. What dojo do you train at? I think I need to learn about respect and control. Gianna pulled out her old sensei's card. Tell him I sent you. He'll know what that means. Brock took the card carefully. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. You can still choose who you want to be, starting today. That weekend, Gianna drove to her old dojo. Her sensei was teaching a class. When he saw her, he smiled. After class, they talked. Your grandmother would be proud, not because you could have hurt him, because you didn't. I miss her. She's still with you, in everything you do. That night, Gianna put her medals back on display. Monday morning at Westfield felt different. Students looked at Gianna with respect. Some nodded. Some said hello. Brock was suspended for 3 days, benched from 2 games, required to write a 5-page essay. Tuesday, someone posted a photo. Brock walking into a karate dojo. Caption, Day 1 of being better. Gianna smiled. Wednesday, Brock returned. He kept his head down, went to classes quietly. His table was smaller. Some friends had distanced themselves. He saw Gianna across the cafeteria and raised his hand in a small wave. She nodded back. 3 weeks later, Ashford announced new protocols for addressing bullying. A student-led diversity committee formed. Speakers came to discuss microaggressions and inclusion. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Gianna started training regularly again. She looked into local competitions. Maybe she wasn't done competing. Mr. Sterling asked if she'd speak to his class about discipline. She agreed. She was done being invisible. 2 months later, Gianna was studying in the library when someone sat across from her. Brock. "Can I talk to you?" She closed her book. "Okay. I've been going to classes 3 times a week. Karate. My sensei doesn't let me get away with anything. Good. I wrote letters. To people I've hurt. Some wrote back. Some didn't. But I sent them." Gianna nodded. "I know sorry isn't enough. I can't undo what I did, but I'm trying every day. That's all anyone can do." Brock stood to leave, then turned back. "Your grandmother sounds amazing. I think she'd be proud of you." Gianna felt her throat tighten. "Thank you." After he left, she thought about her grandmother, about the lessons taught, about choosing grace over rage. She pulled out her phone and looked at their photo from her first tournament. "I hope you're proud, Grandma," she whispered. Somewhere, she felt like her grandmother was smiling. The story didn't end with a fight in a gymnasium. It ended with a lesson that rippled outward, with one girl choosing mercy when she had every right to choose violence, with one boy taking first steps toward becoming better, with a school that would never look at quiet the same way again. Sometimes the hardest fights are the ones where you choose not to swing, and sometimes those are the ones that actually change things.
This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of what happens when truth meets visibility. At Beat Stories, we believe exposure is the first step to transformation. Subscribe and stay tuned, because the next story might be yours.